You scroll TikTok late at night looking for a cheap thrill, a mystery box, a trending toy, something fun. But what if the doll that shows up at your door wasn't meant to be sold at all? My name's the Tales Keeper, and this is Nightmare for Giggles. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell so you don't miss a horror story. Tonight's tale comes from a viral trend, where toys and trinkets are bought through TikTok shops, mystery boxes, and late-night sales. But one buyer discovered their Labubu doll wasn't just rare, it was alive. This is the Labubu doll from TikTok. The package arrived on a Wednesday, the kind of middle of the week that feels like waiting. Mia found it on the doormat, brown cardboard scabbed over with tape, corners mashed by a journey that had too many hands in it. Her name was printed twice on the label, once correct and once with an extra letter, like someone practicing how to call her. Beneath the adhesive, someone had scribbled faded red symbols, loops and angles that might have been a language or just a nervous habit, mostly hidden like a secret pressed under plastic. She filmed before she even picked it up. Reflex 2 taps, camera, record. "Okay guys," she said, pointing the lens down so her voice felt like a presence rather than a face. "I did the thing." Mystery drop from that TikTok live last week. Limited Labubu. Glowing eyes, allegedly. The comments started in their usual trickle. Hearts, laughing emojis, the obligatory first, and then a familiar username popped in, at Moth Hotel, the one who always time-stamped weird stuff in her videos. "Careful with mystery shops though," they typed. "People been getting bootlegs." "Bootlegs have rights too," Mia joked, because a joke is a kind of armor. But when she bent to lift the box, her hands didn't like the temperature of it. The cardboard felt cold where the sun should have warmed it. She laughed again, softer. "Okay, weird. Maybe I'm just whatever." Inside, the apartment hummed with afternoon. The fridge clicked. A neighbor's TV leaked a game show through thin walls. Her little brother's shoes, tiny, defeated things, were piled by the hallway like he'd kicked them off mid-flight. She set the box on her desk where ring light meets clutter and slid a pair of keys under the tape. The glue fought. Her phone balanced on its tripod saw everything, including the way her mouth thinned when the tape finally yielded with a sound like skin separating. "Moment of truth," she said. She held the flaps and paused long enough for the live count to bump. 1,000. 1,500. Someone typed, "Open it," with so many T's it looked like teeth. She lifted, under a blanket of tissue paper printed with tiny crowns. Something looked back. Rounded ears, wide grin, eyes like wet marbles. Larger than expected. Heavier. The Labubu doll lay there like a small animal pretending to be asleep. The fur, if you could call it that, had a texture too fine to be synthetic, a sheen that made her think of peach skin under a grocery store mist. The eyes reflected the ring light in 2 crisp coins. "I mean, she's cute." Mia heard her voice go higher like she was talking to a baby or a stray. She slid her fingers under the doll's arms to lift it out. It had weight where she didn't expect it, dense along the core, head solid. "Okay, not cheap. She turned it for the camera. "Look at the— oh." The tag at the nape had been cut, not neatly but torn, as if someone had changed their mind mid-snip. Comments bloomed. "That looks real different from mine. Why is it so big? Eyes look wet." Girl check under the tissue. Mia peeled the rest of the paper. The box underneath was clean except for one corner where the cardboard had darkened like a bruise. No stand, no certificate, Just a square of bubble wrap and a business card with the shop's handle and a slogan. "We ship what you want," in a font that tried too hard. A phone number, an address that smudged when she rubbed it. She forced a grin for the camera, the one her followers liked. "So, it's home. Welcome to the shelf, demon baby." She didn't mean the last part. It sounded like a joke that arrived uninvited. She set the doll on the highest shelf where plants used to be. Between the cactus that had chosen death and the stack of manga she still pretended she'd finish. The Labubu sat with its feet slightly dangling, head tilted at an angle that suggested a thought. Her brother called from the hallway, voice sing-song and absent. "Mia, did your monster get here?" "Not mine," she said. And she said it to the doll, too. The camera was still rolling. That's how she caught the first blink she didn't believe. Just a flash of ring light stuttering across glass, but enough to make a line of cold walk the length of her spine and take a seat. She cut the recording into something the algorithm could swallow. Mia knew how to pace a beat, when to zoom on a detail, when to pretend not to notice the thing everyone else would. She even left in the part where the tape pulled hairs on her wrist. Audiences love pain in small doses. The thumbnail became the doll's face, the kind of smile that suggests it knows a secret you're about to regret asking. She uploaded and tossed the phone onto her bed, expecting the usual arc. Pop, plateau, slow decline. It didn't pop. It surged. In 10 minutes, the view counter scrolled like a slot machine. Comments fanged the margins of her screen. "Not me watching at 3 a.m. Its eyes are different." "Is that the glow one? They said it glows." "Why the tag cut, sis?" The ring light reflected in the eyes made them look lit from within, like pooled mercury. When she swiped back to the raw footage, she noticed something new. The doll didn't sit entirely consistent. In the first minute, its ears were symmetrical. In the third, the right ear pitched forward a fraction, a cowlick of fiber that hadn't been there. In the fifth, the mouth seemed wider, though maybe that was just the angle, the lens. Her brain collecting and mislabeling shapes the way brains do. "Stop," she told herself, half laughing, as if talking to a pet adopted from a shelter where it learned to be dramatic. She turned the doll to face the room. "Your theater," she informed it. It didn't argue. It never would. That would be too easy. She opened the box again, this time without the camera, to look for the certificate she knew licensed releases had. Nothing. Under the bubble wrap, her fingers found the bruised dark corner. She pressed. The cardboard gave, whispering. She slid it open with a nail. Something thin and papery slid out, like a spend tab from a bus ticket. Blank on one side, on the other, embossed letters she could only see when she tilted it. QC passed and a smear that might have been ink, or the residue of a thumb that had worked too long. She turned the card in the light until it gave up another secret, faint raised lines that weren't part of the stamp. Her brain formed them into language the way you assemble constellations out of stars already there. An H, a V, the ghost of an M. She held it at another angle. The letters vanished. She laughed at herself and put the card back where it could trouble her later. Her brother, Theo, knocked the door twice and came in on the third, because that was their ritual. Always give an exit. Always take it anyway. He was 10 and mostly bones and opinions. "Is that it?" he asked, tipping his chin toward the shelf. "Behold," Mia said, with a flourish she'd stolen from a streamer she didn't like. "A friend for you when I move out." Theo squinted. Its mouth looks wrong. Wrong how? Like it's trying. He tried the word on his tongue, then shrugged. Can I touch it? Wash your hands. Another ritual. He rolled his eyes, vanished, returned with wet palms and shook water onto her shirt as punctuation. He reached up. Mia watched how the doll took his touch. Did the head sway? Did the eyes track? Number. Just weight, softness. The faint impression that heat traveled both ways when Theo pressed his cheek against its fur. He pulled back too fast. It's cold, he announced. Because it's been in a box, she said, too quick. He nodded like he knew that, but wanted her to hear it out loud. When she lifted the doll to replace it, something on the back of its ear caught her finger. A seam. Not the normal, closed kind. A line of stitches that had been tugged and retied by a hand less careful than the original makers. Thread knotted in a way that implied hurry. You're going to shed on me, she told it, putting it back. She pressed a thumb to the seam, half to test and half to reassure herself that it was just fabric. Underneath, something ridged and thin pressed back, then receded, like a fish turning underwater. Her phone buzzed on the bed. New comment pinned itself to the top. Don't let it watch you sleep. She rolled her eyes for nobody and muted the thread. Later at dinner, when her mom asked nothing and Theo asked everything, Mia didn't mention the seam or the way the doll's head angled toward the open window like it could smell the weather outside. She told herself the unboxing was done. Ritual completed. A thing in the world now, folded into the ordinary. Objects love that lie. The first night, the apartment turned into a chorus of familiar noises that hadn't bothered her since she was 12. The fridge's motor, pipes coughing up old water, the upstairs neighbor's chair drag, the exact 12 steps to the table, the scrape, the sigh. Mia lay under a blanket that didn't want to warm her and watched the ceiling fan count seconds. It wasn't moving. Her phone on the nightstand blinked a notification into the dark, a small heartbeat that reminded her she wasn't alone in the idea of audience. She checked anyway. The comment sat at the top of the pile like a warning tossed onto a stack of coupons. Don't let it watch you sleep. She clicked the username out of spite. The profile had no posts, no followers, a name like a license plate. She blocked it, which is the digital equivalent of closing your eyes against lightning. The shelf hovered in her peripheral vision. She didn't want to look, and she didn't want not to. She aimed the flashlight at the ceiling and let the beam bounce off paint and return to her face, bright enough to make the room a tunnel where everything outside the cone didn't exist. This is dumb, she said, because breath needs something to dress itself as. She counted backwards from 100. At 91, the building sighed. At 70, Theo's door opened, tiny feet a soft drum across the hall, then the bathroom light igniting and dying, a small false dawn. At 50, Mia's phone buzzed, not a comment this time, but a vibration she felt in the table rather than heard. She squinted at the screen through thick sleep. Your video is getting more views than usual. Great, she whispered to the void, the word sour with hope. She turned the phone face down to smother the glow. The doll sat on the shelf the way she had left it. She told herself that every time her gaze slipped and returned. It sat, the head tilted, the grin the same, the eyes reflecting nothing because the curtains were drawn. She looked away. When she looked back, something about the mouth was off, wider. No, her angle changed. She pulled the blanket to her chin and arranged the pillow to make looking inconvenient. At 3:12 a.m., the time the internet treats like a ghost train schedule, the apartment swallowed its own sounds and left one, A whisper, not word-shaped, more like paper torn very slowly, coming from the direction of the shelf. Mia's heart decided it had been waiting for this moment. It punched her chest from the inside. She sat up too fast, skull catching up with the movement a second later. "Theo?" she tried, because naming a thing with your brother's name is a way to make it harmless. No answer. A car passed outside, its headlights drawing bars across the curtains like a cartoon prison. The whisper came again. Not from the hall, from her room, from just above eye level, where the shelf broke the dark into a rectangle. She grabbed her phone and flipped the camera to video before she had a plan. All she got was black. She flicked on the light for a second. The doll on the shelf, head tilted, off again, letting the afterimage do that glow it does, where retinas cling to shapes they don't want to release. She stood, feet numb, and walked toward the shelf like she was approaching a wild animal you have to move without making it run. "Stop it," she whispered, to her own heart, or the whisper or both. She set the phone on the desk, recording nothing useful, and reached up. Her fingers touched the doll's ear. The seam prickled under her skin, thread rough. She held it still, palm over the back of its head, not to comfort it, but to test gravity's grip. "See?" she told herself. "Still." Then, because she didn't trust her own eyes anymore, she took a picture. In the photo, the doll's smile looked smaller, lips closed in a secret. In real life, right in front of her, the paint seemed to edge beyond the lines, up toward the cheekbones, like a grin stretching to make room for something behind it. She laughed, because you have to decide whether the thing staring at you is comedy or tragedy before it chooses for you. "Good night," she told it, and tucked the blanket under her chin like it could keep more than cold out. At 3:17, she fell asleep, the way people fall through a trapdoor. Sudden, complete. Her phone recorded 6 minutes of dark that microphones tried to translate. Pipes, breath, the soft S of fabric shifting. At the 4-minute mark, something like a fingernail clicked on wood. At the 6-minute mark, a child's voice in the hallway, Theo, said a word she could never quite make out, something between hi and hunger, and then padded back to bed. In the morning, she would convince herself the whisper was the ring light settling and the click was the shelf contracting in the cold. In the morning, she would put the photo beside the doll and decide the difference in smiles was a lens quirk. In the morning, the comment would still be there, and another beneath it, from at Moth Hotel. "If it watches, don't blink first." The next day was normal. Theo went to school. Their mom worked her remote shift in the living room. Mia dragged herself through her part-time barista job, pretending she liked mornings because tips were better if you smiled. By the time she got home, she smelled like milk and coffee grounds. She tossed her shoes by the door, dropped her bag on the chair, tied her hair up, and put her phone face down on the desk. The doll sat where she had left it on the shelf. She didn't look at it. Not yet. Dinner was overcooked pasta. She ate a few bites, left the rest, and let a comedy show run in the background. The laugh track sounded fake, hollow. When she glanced at the shelf, the doll's grin looked more honest than the people on TV. At 11:58, she broke her promise to herself. She pulled out the ring light again and set her phone to go live. This time, she kept her own face out of the frame. The viewers saw only her room, the shelf, and the doll. "You wanted proof," she whispered. The comments rushed in, filling the screen. "OMG, we're here, it's back." Look at the ears, turn off the light. No, don't, yes, do. Mia laughed nervously. All right. And then she did the one thing she shouldn't have done. She turned the light off. For a moment the screen showed nothing but her faint reflection in the glass, ghost-like. Then the room took shape. The desk, the window, and the doll sitting in shadow. Its eyes looked darker than the rest of the dark. The comments slowed. It was as if everyone had leaned in at once, waiting. Mia's voice shook. If you're going to do something, do it. She tried to sound brave, but it came out like a dare. She instantly regretted. The answer came soft, a sound like fabric sliding against wood. Mia froze. The phone froze with her. On the screen, the doll looked the same. But when her eyes adjusted, the mouth seemed wider, the corners of the grin stretching toward its ears. She laughed without meaning it. Nope, I'm not seeing it. I'm not a new comment pinned itself. At Moth Hotel, listen, not look. She held her breath. The room went quiet. Then she heard it. Right by her desk, near her ear. A tiny whisper, the faint tug of thread, like stitches straining. Her hand shook as she zoomed in on the doll's ear. The seam glinted in the dark. One stitch hung loose, like a hair, dangling. Glue, she told the chat, voice thin. Cheap glue. That's all. But no one in the comments argued. They just watched. 1,000 eyes staring with her. She reached up, fingers ice cold. She pinched the seam. The knot resisted, then shifted. Something small and hard moved beneath the fabric, then stilled. Mia yanked her hand back. That's enough for tonight, she whispered, ending the stream with a swipe. She shoved the phone under her pillow, brushed her teeth in the kitchen, and came back to find the ring light turned slightly. No longer pointing at the shelf, now it was aimed at the empty chair in front of her desk. She crawled into bed. The whisper didn't return, at least not right away. At 2:03, Theo appeared in her doorway, half asleep, eyes heavy. He's smiling, he mumbled. Who? The bunny. He yawned, the word breaking into 2 syllables. It's too big. Mia sat up. The outline of the shelf was just shadow, just a toy. It's nothing, she said, more to herself than to him. Theo padded back to bed, leaving his door cracked like always. And then, after a full minute of silence, the whisper returned, slow, patient, like it knew she was listening. By noon the next day, Mia's post had doubled in views. By mid-afternoon, it had tripled. Clips she hadn't even made, screen recordings of her live, re-edited and captioned in fonts she didn't own, were already trending on random accounts. That's what the internet does. It multiplies like weeds. She decided not to fight it. If people wanted a show, she'd give them one. She scheduled another live for 8 p.m., complete with a countdown sticker, like she was premiering something official. When it started, she set the camera low, angled so the Labubu doll was always visible over her shoulder. We're not doing anything special, she told the chat. Just being normal. Normal meant snacks on the desk, her pretending to study while glancing at comments, Theo slipping a drawing under her door like always. For the first few minutes, it worked. She joked about bootlegs, called the doll Demon Bunny, even explained why she was keeping the box. Resale value, she said, rolling her eyes. The chat eased into it, relaxing. Then, at about 5 minutes, the mood shifted. Comments started hitting the same nerve over and over. Ear moved, right ear, it's breathing. Mia laughed, forcing it. Air conditioning, guys. Kicks on sometimes. She stopped. The vent in her room hadn't worked in months. She adjusted the camera so the doll filled more of the frame. "All right," she said. "Show me." The chat delivered. Floods of slowed clips, timestamps, edits looping a 5-second section where she turned her head. In the reflection of the framed picture behind her, the doll's right ear tilted forward. In the next loop, it tilted back. Forward. Back. Not jerky. Not human. More like a small animal adjusting to a sound no one else could hear. Mia paused the live and scrubbed through her own playback, jaw tight. "It's compression," she muttered. "Video artifacting." But the lie didn't land. In the main shot, the doll sat perfectly still. In the reflection, it moved. Her ring light glowed bright in the room, but in the glass reflection behind her, it didn't show. Instead, the doll's eyes looked faintly lit from within, like they remembered what glowing felt like. Mia forced herself back on stream with a smile that hurt her cheeks. "Very funny," she said. "Great edits. 10 out of 10. I hate it, but she couldn't resist pushing further." She angled the camera so half the frame caught the doll, the other half the picture's reflection. "We're science now," she joked. The chat lit up with laughing emojis and skulls. For a minute, nothing. Another. Then the edges of the frame brightened, light bending from nowhere. In the reflection, the doll turned its head. In real life, it didn't. Mia went still. She didn't gasp, didn't run. She sat so motionless the chat thought her feet had frozen. Comments spamming lag. The reflection tilted its head further, and then, slow enough to mistake for imagination, it lifted its right hand a fraction, like a child shyly raising their hand in class. Mia's own hand trembled against the desk. "Okay," she whispered, barely audible. "Okay." The door cracked open then, hinges creaking like a betrayal. "Mia?" Theo's voice, small, half asleep. She jerked her head too fast. The chat caught it, the kind of movement that goes viral because fear is contagious. "What?" she snapped. Theo rubbed his eyes. "The bunny," he said softly. "It's in my room." By my window, Mia's stomach dropped. One of his sneakers lay abandoned in the hall, laces spilling like it had been kicked off in a hurry. She swung the camera wide, catching the doll in frame, the reflection behind it, and Theo's frightened face all at once. And for the first time, none of them agreed on what was real. Theo wouldn't stop staring at it. The next morning, while Mia filmed a quick morning routine TikTok, he stood in the doorway, hair a storm of sleep, holding his bowl of cereal like it weighed as much as his chest. "It's smiling different," he said, voice low. Mia rolled her eyes at the camera, a practiced gesture for her followers. "My brother thinks the bunny's alive," she joked, half singing. "Somebody tell him to eat his frosted flakes before they dissolve into goo." Theo shuffled in anyway, setting the bowl down on her desk, milk sloshing over the rim. He climbed onto her chair to meet the doll on its shelf. His small fingers hovered just beneath the dangling legs. "It's sharper," he said. Mia turned off the recording. "Sharper how?" "The mouth." He tilted his head, mimicking the doll's tilt. "Yesterday it was like..." He pulled his lips into a simple U shape. "But now it's like this." His mouth stretched, cheeks pulling taut, eyes too wide. A grotesque mimicry of joy. "Stop," she laughed, though it came out brittle. "You're creeping me out." But when she finally looked at the doll, she couldn't unsee it. The paint at the corners of its grin did seem thinner, flaked outward like the smile had stretched itself overnight. She reached for her phone to document it, but in the frame, the smile looked normal again. Round, harmless. Theo whispered, It doesn't like being called fake. Mia ruffled his hair too hard. Finish your cereal. But she didn't like how his words sounded rehearsed. That night, she turned the doll to face the wall. The next evening, after homework battles and reheated leftovers, Mia went to shut her bedroom light. She froze. The Labubu doll wasn't on the shelf anymore. It sat on her desk chair, neatly centered, its feet barely grazing the rug. The box it had come in still sat sealed with tape on the top shelf, untouched. She checked the door. Locked. Checked the window. Still latched. No one had been in here. Her phone shook in her hand as she recorded. Okay, guys. So apparently the demon doll has learned how to commute. Her laugh cracked. Fun times. She set it back on the shelf, heart beating like a runner. But when she replayed the clip, her stomach dropped. In the video, the doll didn't just appear on the chair. It climbed. Frame by frame, it jerked forward, one leg swinging stiffly, head swiveling toward the camera until it sat down like a child waiting for story time. Mia's hand clamped over her mouth. The comments came fast. Did you see its legs? Why is it moving like stop motion? Burn it, Ren no. Don't burn it, that makes it worse. The screen pulsed with emojis, fear disguised as excitement, and in the reflection of her laptop monitor, the doll on the shelf, where she had put it back, wasn't facing the room. It was turned toward her bed. Mia told herself she needed proof, not denial. Proof meant power. So she went live again. The ring light buzzed. The doll sat framed in the background, still as taxidermy. Okay, she told her audience, trying to sound like she wasn't swallowing gravel. We're doing this properly. If it moves 200 viewers, then 500. Comments scrolled fast. People begged her to wave, to test it, to blink in rhythm to see if the doll blinked back. For 20 minutes, nothing happened. Mia started to believe her own mockery. See? It's just defective. Then the light flickered. The screen dimmed and returned. The doll was on the floor. Closer, its head tilted further than she had ever seen, almost 90 degrees, ear brushing its shoulder. The chat went feral. Nope, 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 it teleported. Look at its hands. Mia's hand trembled so badly she dropped the phone. The screen filled with ceiling. By the time she picked it up again, the doll was back on the shelf. But in her stomach, she knew it hadn't climbed, it hadn't been lifted, it had skipped. That night she dreamed of tissue paper peeling itself back, whispering in folds. When she woke, the doll was in its place, grin steady, but the seam on its ear itched at her memory. The comments nagged her. Check the tag. With trembling fingers, she turned it over. The tag was torn, edges frayed. She pinched the seam and pulled. Stitches stretched, threads groaned. Inside, her nail snagged on paper. She tugged it free. A note, small, folded, written in red ink that had bled into the fibers. Property of Harborview Mall. Do not remove. Her throat closed. Harborview Mall, that was hours away. A place she'd heard kids dare each other about. The mall with the clown statue. The one her uncle said was sealed after a fire. Theo peeked in as she stared at the paper. What's that? Nothing, she lied, crushing it into her fist. When she looked back at the doll, its grin looked wider, like it had heard her. The scratch paws morning brought no comfort. Mia woke to sunlight slicing through blinds, but her bedroom door, 5 long scratches raked down the wood, each mark deep, splintering the frame. She touched one, rough, fresh. Her skin prickled as if something had dragged nails down her spine. The doll sat on the dresser now, not the shelf. Grin unchanged, ears perked. Theo stood in the hall, staring. "You left your door open?" he said. "No, I didn't." "Then how did he get out?" He pointed at the doll. Mia forced herself to laugh. "It's a toy, Theo." But as she shut the door again, she whispered to herself, "Toys don't scratch wood." The knock. The scratches were still there that night, mocking her every time she walked past the door. Mia shoved her desk against it, the chair wedged underneath like a barricade. Theo thought it was funny. "What, you afraid it's gonna walk out?" But his laughter didn't reach his eyes. She drifted in and out of sleep. Her phone clutched like a lifeline under the blanket. At 3:33 a.m., the air shifted. The whole apartment seemed to hold its breath. Then came the knock. Not at the door, not at the window, at the closet. 3 soft taps, slow, deliberate, like someone with all the time in the world. Her body locked. The sound didn't repeat. She told herself it was pipes, wood settling, anything. She pulled the blanket over her head. The knock came again. This time she forced herself upright, flashlight beam slicing the dark. Her heart pounded so loud it almost drowned the sound. She inched toward the closet, feet dragging as if her bones resisted. She flung the door open. Nothing. Just clothes, boxes, dust. When she turned back toward her bed, she dropped the flashlight. The doll sat on her pillow, grinning up at her, waiting. The glowing eyes. Mia didn't remember screaming, but Theo swore he heard it. She must have, because her throat was raw when she bolted back to the bed and grabbed the thing. She shoved it into the box, taped the flaps closed, and hurled it into the corner. That should have been the end. But around 4 o'clock, as she lay awake with her blanket pulled tight, she saw it. Faint light seeping from the seams of the box. A glow that pulsed, slow, steady, like breath. She wanted to believe it was her phone charger, a reflection, anything. But the glow was coming from inside the cardboard. The doll's eyes were shining in the dark. She pulled the covers higher and pressed her palms to her ears, trying not to hear the faint scratching from inside the box. By morning, the glow was gone. The box looked normal, but the scratches on the inside flaps weren't. The call Mia showed the live stream replay to her friend Jenna at school. They huddled in the cafeteria, earbuds splitting the sound. The clip showed Mia leaving the room to grab water, leaving the camera running. For a moment, the screen was still. Then the doll's arm lifted, slowly, stiffly, a wave. Jenna pulled the earbud out. Nope, I'm not watching that again." "It's a glitch," Mia said weakly. "Compression, edits." "Something, Mia," Jenna said, her face pale. "That thing waved at your camera. You need to throw it away, or burn it." Mia almost laughed. Almost. "If I put that on TikTok, you know how many views." "Not everything's about views," Jenna snapped. But later, alone, Mia replayed it again, frame by frame. The doll's wave wasn't random. It was directed at the camera, at her, the trade. By evening, Mia decided she'd had enough. She pulled up TikTok, set the doll on the desk, and filmed a short listing. Rare Labubu Doll. Selling cheap. Pick up or ship. Serious buyers only. Within minutes, her account froze. A red banner popped up. Account suspended. She stared, dumbfounded. She hadn't violated anything. She refreshed. Error. She checked the shop that had sold it to her. Gone. The page didn't exist. The doll sat by her phone, grinning wider than she remembered, like it knew what she had tried to do. Her hands shook. She whispered, "You don't want to leave, do you?" The silence of the room pressed back in agreement. The brother. It was Theo who broke first. One night, Mia woke to find his bed empty. Panic surged. She tore through the apartment until she heard something in the garage, humming, low and tuneless. She opened the door. Theo sat cross-legged on the concrete, the Labubu doll in his lap. His eyes were glazed, unfocused, his fingers tracing the seam of its ear. "It wants to play," he whispered, over and over, voice flat. "It wants to play. It wants to play." Mia dropped to her knees, shaking him, begging. His eyes finally blinked, like surfacing from underwater. He looked at her with confusion. "What?" he asked, voice small. The doll tumbled from his hands and landed upright, still grinning. Mia grabbed it, shoved it back in the box, taped it until her fingers bled. But she couldn't tape away Theo's words. "It wants to play." That night, the air in Mia's room felt different, heavier, colder, like the walls themselves had leaned in. She lay awake, every nerve waiting for something. It came slowly. The shadows stretched. The lamp on her desk cast a small pool of light, but the shadows on the walls didn't obey it. They lengthened unnaturally, stretching from the corners of the room, all of them pointing toward the box where the Labubu doll sat sealed. Her breath quickened. She pulled her blanket up, but the shadows kept crawling. They didn't waver like natural darkness. They moved with intent, fingers reaching across the carpet, searching. One shadow hooked itself against the box. The tape wrinkled. The cardboard shifted. "No," Mia whispered, clutching her pillow like a shield. "Stay closed." The shadows froze. Then, like smoke dragged back into lungs, they withdrew, curling into the corners again. The box sat still, silent. But she knew. The doll didn't need to move anymore. The house was moving for it. The next morning, Mia grabbed the box with shaking hands. She was done. Done with videos, done with comments, done with whispers. She turned it over, searching for the return address. The label was smudged, almost illegible. The ink bled like it had been soaked in water. She traced her finger across the faded lines until she found 3 words still visible. "Do not resell. Do not record." Her chest tightened. She grabbed her phone, snapped a picture, proof. But when she opened her gallery, the photo was corrupted. Colors warped, lines stretching into a static grin. Her notifications buzzed. A new TikTok upload. She hadn't posted anything. It was her video, the one where you found the note inside the doll. But now the caption wasn't hers. It read, "Still watching." Mia told herself one more live stream would end it. She'd show everyone, and then she'd destroy the doll. She set up the ring light. Thousands joined within minutes. The Labubu doll sat in the middle of the room, box discarded, grin wide. "Okay," Mia said, voice trembling. "You wanted proof." Watch for 10 minutes, nothing. Just her, pacing, breathing hard, the doll frozen. Comments flooded. "Nothing's happening, she's faking, burn it." Then the lights cut out. Screams in the chat. Emojis flaring like sparks. When the power flickered back, Mia was gone. Only the doll sat in the chair, directly facing the camera. Its grin was wider. The chat exploded. "Where is she? Did you see that?" It turned its head. No, rewind, rewind." The camera zoomed slightly, though no one touched it. The Labubu doll slowly tilted its head to the side, ears twitching faintly. The sound of fabric tearing whispered through the speakers. One final comment pinned itself, highlighted in red, though no one admitted to typing it. "Would you like to play?" Then the stream ended. Mia's account vanished the next morning. No posts, no followers, no trace. But the video didn't. It re-uploaded itself on random feeds, stitched into unrelated content, appearing on For You pages at 3:12 a.m. sharp. Always the same. Mia unboxing. The doll's grin. The whisper of fabric. Some viewers swore the doll looked different each time. In one clip, its mouth open wider. In another, its head tilted closer. Some said they saw their own room reflected in its glassy eyes. And beneath every version, the caption remained the same. Would you buy one? Sometimes the things we buy aren't meant to belong to us. Some toys don't stay still. And some smiles stretch wider than they should. So the next time you're tempted by a midnight TikTok sale, ask yourself if you're really ready for what's in the box. Until next time, this was Nightmare for Giggles.